I have spent 67 hours creating this AAA character for my portfolio, while holding down a full-time job, and what started as a quick project has turned into a disaster that has changed the way I work forever. Not only that, I have also spent $600 on mentorships with AAA artists to turn this character from this to this. This video will show you how this character was made, my struggles as I make it, how you can avoid burnout, and how finishing your big projects can make you a better artist. Hello everybody, my name is Ellie, I'm a 3D character artist, and here's the thing. A few years ago, I landed my first job in the gaming industry, and I was ecstatic. But a year passed, and I hadn't made a single personal project. And now you see that's a problem, because if you're not making any personal projects, the chances are you're not learning too much. For me personally, I see so many talented artists online, and I want to be on par with them, or even better. So to accomplish that, I do need to work on personal projects. So I started thinking. I didn't yet have a full realistic character in my portfolio, and I knew that had to change. But I also knew, without any rules, this project will fall into perfectionism hell. Rule 1, I'm gonna pick a studio and follow their style. You see, if you want to get hired in the gaming industry as a 3D artist, you have to make a portfolio tailored to the studio's needs. You basically have to show them that whatever they might need, you can do. So I first went ahead and made a list of studios that I would like to work for in the future. I've checked out all the 3D and 2D artists from those studios, and I had a rough guideline of what I would like to do for this project. Also, by recommendation from my friend and senior Samir, I decided to work in a realistic style as opposed to stylized. And since I love Blizzard games and wanted to make a realistic yet simple model, I chose Diablo 4. Since the quality of models there is insane, but since the game is top-down, they can afford to simplify some of the elements. And I wanted to study how they do that. Rule 2, I can only pick a concept of a common, rare, or epic set. Anything more complicated is banned. Since more rare sets usually have a lot of glowy and shiny bits, that would be an additional challenge for me, and making VFX isn't something I was ready to tackle just yet. Rule 3, I need to reference existing work of the studio and try to match it. Mixing in other styles or styles from different games is also banned. When making a new project, it's super easy to go around the internet gathering everything you can lay your eyes on and hoarding reference like a little goblin without thinking about why you actually need those reference. And that's also something I want to avoid. Rule 4, the model must include a variety of different materials. Because this was going to be a big project, I wanted the final product to showcase as much materials and surfaces as possible, or at least as much as makes sense for the character. You see, during my years of working, I've learned a lot, but I didn't have much to show for it except the models in-game that I were making, but I'm not allowed to show those. So I definitely wanted to show as much as I can in this portfolio project. And so, we begin. First, I go to ArtStation, look up Diablo 4, filter the 2D drawings, and go through them. I found this amazing artist, Igod Sid, went on to ask for his permission, and then just went ham on his portfolio. I chose a bunch of concepts that caught my eye, and went to analyze them. I needed something that wasn't done and posted before. Something with a bunch of materials, and I also wanted to make a bulky armor or a sneaky rogue. So I started vibing with this one. A lot of belts look cool, and I also thought it would be simple to model just a few, and just duplicate them a bunch of times. This decision definitely won't come back later to bite me. But anyways, it's settled. I chose this set called Bone Weave. Then I went to check if someone made it already, and it turns out they didn't. But I was curious, is this set actually in-game? It had to be, right? And it was. You see, in studio environments, you often have to cut corners on models that aren't super important and spend most of your time on the important ones. The stuff that the player is most likely gonna buy. That means the artist had to cut corners on this one. The mask isn't like on the concept, likely for the speed and topology sake. The arm blades are shorter and are different. They're not all bone, which I really like the fact that they're all bone, and this little gradient here. The belts are sticking to the body a bit too much instead of influencing the silhouette. Boots are a little flat, and all of this was made either because of the time or engine limitations. They're working people, they can't spend a lot of polys on boots because the players won't see them too much from top down, as well as they can't add a dagger because not only is that additional polygons, but also UV space, which can influence the smoothness of the game performance and the texture quality of the rest of the model respectively. And I had no such restrictions, which means I get to make my own version with daggers and bone claws. Is that meme too old? Oh, stop it. And now it's time to choose 3D reference. And remember rule 3, where I had to stick to one studio style? Yeah, that rule didn't really exist yet, which means I've started hoarding reference, the exact thing I told you not to do. And while I do think that breaking this rule, or not having it at all, made the project look much cooler, I still think that if I wanted to finish it as fast as possible, I should have just stuck to one. So basically, if you want to finish a project as fast as possible, then just stick to one studio style. And if you want to experiment or blend different styles, then be my guest, but be ready. It will take you a lot more time. Do I regret this? Maybe. Yeah. But, you know, God of War is cool, and I have no self-control. So Blockout is the first step of creating any 3D character. You might have heard about how silhouette is super important if you want to make a recognizable and unique character. Well, that's exactly your goal when making a Blockout. You actually only need to model things that influence the silhouette and make the character recognizable. I start by putting in a female base mesh, put in placeholder robes, cloths, mask, etc. Everything to get the character at least loosely resemble the original. Make it exist first and make it good later. And here's the first time having no project boundaries came to brutalize me. You see, my thought process was very simple. I wanted to make a portrait for this character, but I haven't finished any game-ready portraits before. Oh, I know. I'll just make one as a mini project. When I came back to the project, the Blockout looked off. And also the fact that I've spent 2 months on a project, calling it a mini project, was weighing down on me. I now needed something to make me accountable for my work, and I knew just the right thing to do that. You see, for a while now, I've been eyeing this mentorship by Bruno Camara, an artist that has worked on God of War, and I've decided to hit him up for a mentorship. And I was super happy. I was learning from an artist I admire, the feedback he gave me was super helpful, and basically sky was the limit. I continued work on my model, and only in the first couple of days, the Blockout looked much better. But time was slipping. My 9-to-6 job has left me drained for every day of the mentorship, and I couldn't work fast enough to implement all the helpful feedback that Bruno has gave me. The mentorship was ending, and while Bruno was of tremendous help, I felt like I was wasting the $300 because I couldn't work fast enough. I was feeling like I am the problem, which I was. I felt like I ordered a Michelin star steak and just threw it away. With that, and because of some other life's issues, I had to take additional freelance work, which meant that I had to abandon the project for the time being. I was exhausted, broke, and worst of all, I felt like I had failed myself. Boo-hoo, cry about it. Anyway, here's what I did during my first month of the mentorship. I've changed the base mesh, sculpted some boots, simulated most of the cloth, tightened the belts, made a placeholder mask, and overall worked and improved the model. And at this point, mentorship ended. Yeah, you can see here how I didn't do much in a month, but again, I physically couldn't. But you know, the before and after didn't look so bad. Eventually though, I've had enough. I was going to finish this project no matter what. I've ditched all the freelance work once I had enough money, and every spare minute of my day that I could squeeze out, I would pour into this project. So just like that, progress has returned. Slowly but surely, I was going forward. I've also decided once I've made enough progress on the model, I would go back for a second round of mentorship and see what Bruno has to say about my work then. And so, the work continued. Coins and trinkets are also a super important part of this character. The original concept didn't have any ornaments drawn out separately, so that's a part where I had to improvise. And I thought that would be a great opportunity to include some of that Nordic inspiration from God of War. By the way, I'm planning to make a more in-depth guide on making these. If you have any questions about any other part of this model, please let me know in the comments. I've made a simple base, beveled the edges, so that they reflect more light. I then crease the edges, subdivide the model, and start drawing the pattern with radial symmetry on. I then extract the mask, I delete the parts that I don't need, and get a flat plane in the shape of my drawing. ZBrush them to get cleaner topology, and just like with the base, I extrude them inwards, bevel the edges, and that's the first layer of the design. I do the same for another layer, and I've got the coin ready. Later, I go in and add surface damages, dents and stuff like that to make the coins look used. The other coin I decide to make simpler, just leaving the base without any ornaments, and I followed the same process with all of the other metal trinkets, like this one, and this. For the belts, there are a lot of them, and they're very hard to track, so I prepared a plan. All the belts with the buckles I had named main belts. The belts in between, filler belts, and the ones on the back are, back belts. So the plan was to first place main belts kind of far from the body to influence the silhouette. Then fill the empty spots with filler belts, and on the back, well, just do the same. After that, I had to go in one by one to make sure they aren't clipping in visible places. Only visible places matter. Then, I decided to give more love to the main belt. I sculpted the biggest belt, kinda like soft, thick fabric, added some stitches on the rim, broke them down a bit, deleting them here and there. I've added slight folds to the filler and back belts so that they don't look out of place. For the sake of the speed of this project, I could have left all the belts more simplified, just like they do on Diablo. After all, that's one of the main reasons I've chose Diablo as the target art style. But I've decided to spend a little more time on them, and after placing the trinkets, I went on to add surface detail, sculpt in some micro cracks, as well as sculpting some other details. And there go the belts. Oh boy, I was dreading this moment since I started this project, because you see these patterns here, they're very hard to understand. I had trouble understanding them at the beginning, and because I didn't understand them, I was scared of them. At first I thought, since I already sculpted a skull, why not use a half of it for a mask, like here? And I sculpted this thing, which definitely wasn't bad, but it felt a bit raw on this particular character. I could do this, it looks really cool on this model, but on my model it felt like, you know, thoracic fork. So I decided, nah, instead I'll do this. I first made the base of the mask from the skull I made before. I then went ahead and in Blender started modeling on top of that base. I've continued modeling and even added some modifiers so that I can imagine the result better. The thing that was scaring me about the mask is that there are a lot of belts covering the design and I had no idea what to do behind them. So I decided to take it one step at a time and first model the things I can see, then decide what to do with them later. I've separated the nose part. I wanted to sculpt it more organically, and I proceeded to sculpt whatever I felt like, basically. Whatever felt right, I just did. And if I didn't like the result, I would just scrap it and start again. I've scraped out the sockets for the teeth, then I shaped actual teeth, duplicated them, and started sharpening the edges. I then made an additional part which would flow nicely into the jaw design and into the design on the cheekbones. And for the lower jaw, I just decided to do the same as with the jaw above. I sculpted it organically, added some edges, and then came time to bevel the edges on the mask so that they reflect light better. For the belts on the mask, I went into Blender, I created a curve and wrapped it around the face and the head. I used some modifiers to add volume to them again, and I just continued wrapping them around and making sure that there is no clipping around them. And then I've imported this base into ZBrush and started sculpting folds on these belts. Once I was done, I decided to give my character some makeup, and there goes the face. Here's the mask once again. I really like it. And now, skulls. I'm planning to make a bigger video for the skulls. I've got a whole big boy time lapse for it, save the history and everything. But for now, I'll show you the same process. The blockout, the detailing, and surface detail. And you've got yourself a skull. Stay tuned for a full tutorial on how to make realistic skull. And by the way, if you want anything about this model covered in a separate video in more detail, just let me know. So for the hood, I wanted something more complicated that is already in the concept art. I felt that the fold hood isn't gonna look too cool in 3D, and because it's in the portrait part of the character, I wanted to make something that looks really good, that you could look at for a while and still see something new. So I decided to make the hood in 2 layers. The top layer is leather stitched together in 3 parts with some stitches missing, misaligned, basically a very rough leather job. And the second layer, which is basically a torn cloth layer. And that's pretty much it. For the hood, I added the stitches, then I went to add tension folds from those stitches and basically gave more volume to the leather hood. Then I added smaller stitches and proceeded to add more volume around them as well. Then I proceeded to do that many more times. I have tightened the cut marks. Then I have added several versions of surface imperfections as well as some leather surface detail. And that's basically it for the hood. For the claws, I did the blockout first, then I worked on the surface for a while. I wanted to make it feel like bone, which was a little hard since I couldn't understand which parts of which skeleton these are supposed to be, but that's where referencing helped me a lot. For surfacing, I've referenced this image and tried to match all of the cool details and patterns there. Once I've had a satisfying result, I've flattened some parts of the bone, and just like that, I'm done with claws. You see, I have a confession to make. The topology on this project is garbage. And that's alright. You see, even in the same studio, the topology varies between projects. So at least for my personal projects, I don't see any need to optimize the topology. So I've just zero meshed and decimated everything and called it a day. And that allowed me to finish the topology on the character that has more than 200 subtools in less than 5 hours. I then gave the model to my friend and coworker Jamal, who is awesome with rigs, and he made this really cool meta-human rig for me. You know, folks, friendship is magic. Haha. Texturing on this gal went generally chaotically, and I don't have a step-by-step footage of how I did it, so I'm gonna use this cute little toad to explain my texturing process. So basically what I'm about to explain now, I did for every material on this character. I start with a neutral dark base, then I make the base of the material from a tileable texture. You can either find them online or make one yourself. I'm planning to make a video on that one as well. Then I add color variation, maybe 2 or 3 layers. Then I add a gradient for the same purpose of color variation. I tweak it a little bit, change the colors, set it to multiply, and generally whatever looks the most appealing, I can. Then it's time for the edges. I make one separate layer with different roughness and different color for the edges. I make another layer for the cavities. I usually use the dirt modifier, and that's basically how it goes for every material. I then go around the model and look for imperfections or obvious stamps and fix them when I can. So once again, base layer, color variation, gradient, edges in different material, and dirt. On top of that, I can add whatever I want, whether it be blood, more dirt, or I just modify whatever. Again, I'm also planning to make several tutorials for texturing, so stay tuned. Somewhere around this point, when the sculpt was mostly ready, I quickly did the topology and went for another month of feedback with Bruno. And during these feedbacks, I generally got feedback on my textures. And in the end, when we got into a one-on-one, I was pleasantly surprised with Bruno's reaction.
What I'm seeing here is amazing, man. Man, amazing work on all of this.
And while we were at it, I dropped a question I've been meaning to ask since I started this character.
So, questions about this work. Could this be considered senior level work?
Absolutely, man. And when we reach the final main images, for example, to look like a movie shot, this will be even more outstanding.
I was so relieved. All this time of working, many sleepless nights, and restless after work hours have finally paid off. And not only that, you also dropped this.
Man, do you mind if I post this on the stories today, for example?
Oh, not at all.
Just a teaser on the stories and tagging you.
Yeah, I'd be humbled.
It's beautiful, man.
And being featured like that, even if it's just a story, I was super happy. That was the icing on the cake, and it left me energized till the end of the project. Speaking of which, I first found this awesome scene on Unreal Marketplace, chose a place, imported a model and the textures, created and connected all the materials, and set up basic lighting, main light, fill, and rim light. I've set up a bunch of cameras, and just like that, the project that I've poured all of my soul and time into is done. Now check this out. Don't forget to leave me a comment if you want me to break down any of the other parts of this model. And thank you for watching this video. Again, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Bye!